Welcome to our next session at CrafterCMS Live. CrafterCMS Unlocked, building custom plugins for a composable CMS with Karsten Paul and one of his colleagues at EXA Online in Germany, Circa and Karsten. Super excited for this session here. I love the topic of plugins. I can't wait to hear more about it. Now, just a little bit of information on the team. Karsten is Managing Director at EXA Online, which is a certified solution partner at CrafterCMS. Just a quick reminder, we welcome questions from the audience during the session. So please, if you have questions, ask them at any time using the Q&A button at the bottom of your Zoom screen. And if you're watching this from the lobby, you'll need to join the session in order to ask questions. Okay, Karsten, the floor is yours. Take it away.
Thank you, Russ. Very excited to have the opportunity to present here something we have done in the past. We are EXA Online. We have been active in the enterprise CMS market for 25 years now and implement CMS solutions for our customers. We not only implement until the website goes live, but also support our customers beyond that. From our point of view, a website is not a product that is finished at some point, but a project that has to be constantly worked on and ultimately maintained. We have been working, for example, with Red Bull since 2012. And to be able to cover this, we have a 24/7 support team, for example, that works very closely with the dev teams right from the design and implementation stages. There's no CMS that fulfills all customer requirements 100% out of the box. In the last 25 years, we have had to bend a lot of CMS to meet customer requirements. There were, for example, skinning to promote employees' identification with the application, CRM connections to provide users with individual experiences, DAM interfaces to use multimedia content from the company pool, including browsing and validation and so on, PIM e-commerce integrations to use the platform in specific places for product placements, etc., etc. How have we done this in the past? As a rule, we did it the way it is done with WordPress plugins, for example. We have extended or adapted the CMS code. This has led to that, hence with every CMS upgrade. Here we see a picture from the time to which we never ever want to return. What we did in these times was not plugin development, but CMS extensions. According to the design pattern, a plugin consists of 3 components: the host application, the plugin interface, and the plugin itself. And a plugin must be modular, expandable, separated, scalable, flexible, maintainable. That sounds good and plausible, and that's how it should always be done. But the CMS, the system behind, must also offer these options. Almost all CMS does not, but Crafter does. In Crafter, we can develop plugins that exactly respect the plugin design pattern. Of course, CrafterCMS can still be customized and extended in the old way. It is open source after all, but not with us. If the customer wants something that is not available out of the box in CrafterCMS and we come to a technical and financial agreement, we get the plugin. And exactly as it corresponds to the design pattern. Crafter offers the possibilities for both the studio and the engine. We especially, our platform team especially, are very grateful for this possibility, which as far as we know, no other enterprise CMS offers. In the following, we would like to present 3 plugins that we have developed. Imagic for solving
Almost, yeah.
almost all problems with responsive images, translatic for manual or automatic translation, and governance for content checks before the content is live. We will present Imagic in more detail and more or less only touch the others. All three plugins are currently being tested in projects with customers and will then be prepared to be made available on the CrafterCMS marketplace. And now I will hand over to Silke, who will introduce us Imagic.
Yes, thanks, Carsten. Hi, everyone. I'd like to speak about one of the first plugins that we have built for CrafterCMS called Imagic, or Imagic, which is all about images and honestly not magic at all. What's the problem with images? Within a web application, images are reused in very different sizes and aspect ratios. A very typical use case is that you have a hero stage with an image at the top of a page. For example, the article you see here in the slide, which is taken from the CrafterCMS website editorial demo site. The image has originally a size of 1024 by 1024 pixels, so the aspect ratio of 1:1. As you can see, that works well on small viewports, but on desktops and larger viewports, we need to restrict the image height and change the aspect ratio. Otherwise, the image would be way too high. You would only see the upper part of an image, and moreover, the user would have to scroll down to even realize, there's some text below the image, and that's a very bad pattern. To work around this problem, you can position and scale the image with CSS in the browser. And the result can be seen here in the screenshot on the right side of the slide. The image height is restricted to 500 pixels and positioned using the CSS object fit property. This might look in many cases, but still there are major drawbacks. And the first is, it's always the complete original image that is sent to the client, even though it is downscaled in the browser and only partially displayed. This leads to a very bad performance and poor SEO metrics, and you should definitely avoid that. Second thing, image positioning options with CSS are very limited and can result in important image areas being hidden or even cut off. For example, in the past, we were facing issues with brand logos and product names being cut off, or we have built several web applications for soccer clubs, and there you often have to be careful to not cut off heads and get the ball positioned in the viewport. So the requirement is, in order to offer my audience the best possible experience, as a digital manager, I want images to always be displayed in the optimal size and format and contain the best section without having to create different versions. Displayed in the optimal size and format means images are scaled down and cropped on the server so that we only transfer data to the client that is really necessary and shown, and nothing more. Ideally converted into a modern image file format with best compression to ensure best performance. And without having to create different versions means that we don't want content editors to create and upload multiple image sizes and formats for different scenarios. Instead, we want them to upload exactly one image in high resolution, and the rest should be done automatically. How did we achieve this? Well, as already said, we have created a plugin for CrafterCMS called Imagic. Basically, this plugin consists of a custom form engine control, which is very similar to the standard image picker form control, but additionally allows the content editor to set a focus point in the image. And then in the view, in our front-end code, we need a helper function to calculate the required cropping rectangle based on the focus point of the image. We use CrafterCMS in a headless fashion, so this is just a small JavaScript or TypeScript function. Moreover, we need an image processor which allows you to crop, scale, and transform your images. This could be anything like Timbre, imaginary, cloudinary, image proxy, etc., etc. So now let's take a more detailed look at the individual components. First, our custom form engine control. After installing our plugin, you will find our Imagic as a form control in the content type definition. And you simply add it to your content types like any other form control. As with regular images, you can assign data sources like image uploaded from desktop, image from repository, and so on. But contrary to the default image form control, Imagic doesn't have properties for min and max size restrictions, as we want the content creator to upload the image in the best available quality. And Imagic also does not have the option to specify a static thumbnail size because thumbnails are generated dynamically when needed. Here you see our Imagic in a content form of an article. So now we are in the editorial view, and suppose we want to add an image to our newly created article asset. We click on Add, and then, for example, upload images to upload an image from our desktop. We choose a file from our local machine, click Upload. And after upload, you see a preview of the image and the upload path. Now here, additionally to the regular image, you see a focus point, which is shown and per default set in the center of the image. You simply click at the position on the image to move the focus point. And basically, simple as that, that's it. That's all you have to do. Click Save and you're done. How is the information of the focus point stored? Well, it's the same as with the default images. The upload path of the image is stored, plus query parameters holding the focus point as relative distance to the image center in X and Y axis. The charm of this solution is that it's simple and backward compatible, which means it's still a valid URL. Nothing breaks. You can request the image source as you did before and ignore the query parameters in case. This allows the Imagic plugin to be integrated easily in an existing project and start maintaining the focus points afterwards. As mentioned earlier, we use CrafterCMS in a headless fashion. So we have a Next.js application, which dynamically fetches content from the CrafterCMS content API. And of course, it's the same here. An Imagic source is the relative path to the uploaded image, enriched with the focus point coordinates as query parameter. So far, we have shown how the focus point is set and stored. And now, how can we use of it? How can we make use of it? In our view layer or content application, we need a function which calculates the cropping rectangle based on the original source image size, the focus point in the image, and the target container size. And we have created a small helper function to do so, and it takes these values as inputs and outputs 2 points of a rectangle with the target container ratio. And then what's left to do is the cropping of the image according to that rectangle and scale it down. And in order to do that, we need an image processor. There are lots of image transformation and processing services out there: Timbre, Imaginary, Image Proxy, PicFit, to name a few. And you are free to choose what fits best to your infrastructure and requirements. You can even implement it by your own using libraries such as ImageMagick. However, here we select imageproxy.net as it is a lightweight, fast, robust, and secure server to manipulate remote images. How does it work? Basically, in your front-end code, you only need to replace the URL of your image sources with the URL to the image proxy server. This URL instructs the image proxy server to do a set of operations on the specified image in a repository, like crop it, then scale it down like that, and convert it into WebP, for example. And the response of this request is the transformed image file itself. So you do not fetch your images directly from the repository, but instead through the image server proxy. Fairly simple, but okay, you probably need some CDN or caching layer in between, because one thing has to be kept in mind: the image operations are very resource consuming, or can be very resource consuming. And therefore, image processing offers great attacking vectors, and you need to protect your infrastructure from misuse. Image proxy offers some good mechanisms to do so, like URL signing, authorization methods, and validity checks for images and processing parameters. Well, that being said, you are good to go. Okay. My remote control is not working. Okay. Okay. Well, that being said, you're good to go, and that's all. Now your web application has performance, optimized, and responsive images. Problem solved. But to be honest, performance and responsiveness are just two aspects of implementing images in a CMS. In all our CMS projects so far, images have never been just a path to a binary file. They are always a concrete content type with properties like title, description, alt text, credits, creation date, expiration date, and so on. And that's why we extended our Magic plugin with a custom content type image, which has all those common properties already assigned. And we currently implement an automated metadata extraction when uploading the image, so that all stored metadata like EXIF data or IPTC data is automatically converted and assigned to the corresponding assets property. In conjunction with focus point handling, we have performance optimized responsive images plus all SEO and accessibility requirements covered. And from a technical perspective, there's no need to add an additional DAM. So images completely solved.
Almost.
Almost, yeah. That's about in the next episode.
Thank you, Silke. Let's come to translating. Translating is our by the way, I'm really proud of Magic, but yeah, translating. I'm also proud of this. We have customers who are active in a number of countries and want to offer content in different languages, the same content in different languages. Our internal project record was a project for 54 countries. The base requirement is quite simple. I have language A and want to translate content into language B. So far, so good. But sometimes the content is to be translated manually, sometimes automatically. when translating manually, the translator wants to see the original content and the content to be translated in a kind of diff view. And finally, there must be a connection between the language versions in order to use the href tag correctly, for example. And the syllable must also be taken into account. For example, the alt text for the images have to be translated. And of course, the text from the rich text editor must not be translated. How did we solve it? With a plugin, of course. We have developed a form sidebar plugin that can be applied to all text attributes and all content types. And for automatic translation, we use DeepL, which delivered much better results than AWS and Azure in our very intensive tests. The workflow is you select any asset you want. You then go to the translate action, choose the language in which the asset have to, or the text content of the asset have to be translated. Then you choose the target folder. This was a internal discussion. How would we structure the original content and the translated content? Should it be in the same folder? Should it be different folders? Should it be language folder? And we decided it's up to the editors, respective translators. You choose the folder in which the translated asset should be saved. And then all text attributes of this image will be translated automatically. Then you can open the translated asset and check and edit the translation. And here's an example how you can do it in the edit form. This is, by the way, the same view and translator who decide to translate manually will see. For that, to map the connection between the individual language versions, the master ID, the master language, and the language of the asset are saved in the asset. Because the asset data stored in XML files, thank God, and thanks Crafter, with a simple open search query, a simple open search query can be used to query which language versions exist, what the master asset is, and then this can be used to, for example, to output the href code in the HTML code. The service for the automatic translation can, of course, be determined by a configuration. The biggest difficulties in this development where the text attributes can be figured very differently. Sometimes contain content that must not be translated, for example, text values that must be translated specifically, for example, dates, brand names, and specific technical terms, etc. And there is a file that contains these exceptions. We have just started a project where the content will be available in English and German. Other languages will be added later. Arabic will be particularly exciting, we expect. The project will provide us with valuable input and for adjustment and extensions to this plugin. We are very much looking forward to this. And the last one we want to show today is a plugin we called Governancy. The requirement is that we have customers who have very strict requirements in terms of content quality. For example, no content may be published that has not been checked by the dual control principle. And we can support this technical by carrying out a check for certain criteria before publishing. You didn't expect anything else, I hope, a plugin, a solution. For this purpose, we have developed a toolbar plugin that checks the content in the preview of a page. Therefore, a marker indicates whether the content is okay or whether there are warnings or errors. If you click on this marker, you see the overview. We are currently checking the accessibility, which we believe is becoming increasingly important, spelling and images. Here a side note, of course, we have been designing and developing with a clear focus on accessibility for years, but the content must also meet these criteria. That was a starting point for the idea of developing this plugin. Here too, of course, everything is controlled via a configuration file. The biggest challenge here was that Studio is not normally, in our projects, accessible for public. That's why we run the entire check in the browser. One highlight was that we were able to use Crafter's ability to read text files via HTTP request for spell checking. This allows us to load the dictionaries for the respective language on demand and saves a lot of memory in the browser. Yes, that's was an overview of the plugin we're currently testing in real life and want to bring to the marketplace soon. If there are any questions, we hope to be able to answer them. Thank you very much so far.
Circa and Karsten, thank you so much for this presentation. These plugins are awesome. Not just one awesome plugin, but 3 awesome plugins. And I think you can see just how much time things are going to save here. I really appreciate all this work, and EXA. You guys have been a great partner for us. And I've always felt like we're kindred spirits in our love for all things digital experience. And I have to say, I don't know.
We are also very happy with the collaboration with you guys. It's a pleasure.
Thank you. Well, I just wanted to say too, I don't know if you can see Karsten's sweatshirt there, but it says "I love CMS," and I am extremely envious.
This is an EXA color. That's why it isn't red. Sorry for that.
Oh, I gotcha. Okay, well, we'll have to fix that. Get a Crafter one. So we're going to take some questions here. I see some stuff coming in. Let's see. Here's the first one. We have plenty of time, so please ask your questions in the Q&A area. The first one is in the translation plugin. There was a reference to DeepL service. What is that?
Yeah, DeepL is a online translation service developed by the DeepL company based in Cologne, Germany, and they are really awesome. They have they built artificial intelligence, machine learning with neural networks. They have their own training sets, and they DeepL run on a supercomputer in Iceland. A friend of mine is an English professor, and she is really afraid using her job because we had a dinner 1 or 2 months before, and she said DeepL is really, really good. Yeah, if you have some projects with automatic translations, you should definitely check DeepL. It's really great.
Okay, that's great information. I think this one is just related to that. And it basically says, what are the base translation engines that you support? And I guess that would be, in this case, in addition to DeepL, or could you support other?
Yeah, we use DeepL, but we also have translated, tested, or set up with AWS and Azure, and it works also well because we just send text to a translation service and get a result back. Yeah.
Great. Another question here. Now they're starting to come in real quick, but we do have time, so we'll take as many as we can. Another question was, what do you do with these plugins when Crafter upgrades or the version of Java upgrades? What's involved in keeping these plugins up to date?
This is Silke's job, so maybe she can answer.
Well, yeah, when it comes to upgrade to a new CrafterCMS version, we are quite relaxed, to be honest. Well, there's nothing special. As a developer, we watch quite closely the GitHub repository of the CrafterCMS and read the release notes, of course. And we check if there are some new features that might affect our process or, of course, our plugins. But basically, CrafterCMS upgrades are just like regular deployments on our side. And I think that's the benefit of a composable CMS. It's modularity and flexibility and extensibility. So after a CMS upgrade, there's no need to reintegrate our plugins or customizations because, I mean, they are modules by itself. And in the past, I have to admit that we had to, after a CMS upgrade, we had to reintegrate and bring our customizations back into the CMS. But that is not necessary with CrafterCMS anymore. And I would say even if one plugin would fail, the core studio functionality would probably still work. So we have no bad experiences with that so far.
Yeah.
But of course, we also have we have a set of automated tests that run regularly, and they include tests for some specific studio functionality as well, and also our plugins and some third-party service integrations. But
So you have unit tests for your plugins as well. We had a bunch of other questions here, so let's jump to these. They kind of jump around in topics. So there's 3 plugins, but I'll try to take some in the order that we've got them. How is the accessibility validation configured? And are those validations tailor-made? And I think this is related to the governance.
Governance. There are some APIs for accessibility out there. We are in the version we have shown. We use Little Forest, a company from the UK that is particularly active in the academic environment. But in principle, we can offer any service with an API here. Little Forest is a specialist for content governance. They do it for universities and so on, and they have a own Little Forest score they provide, and the API works best for us, and so we use this. But you can take any other accessibility API if you want. And we can, by configuration, we can define how strictly the check should be. And this is also a simple possible with Little Forest.
Great. Here's another one. This moves to translation. The question is, how does the translation plugin help with structured contents like price lists and product listings and so on?
Price lists and product lists. Yeah, is the same as just text.
Right.
They are translated, but the currency especially is something that you have to configure per,
Yeah, do you
per
have
language.
to configure
for
the
localization?
currency? Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Another question is, these plugins are pretty feature rich. Can you give kind of an idea of how long it took and what the effort was involved, how difficult was it, and so on to create them?
Well, the
Yeah.
Magic plugin was surprisingly fast because the main part is taken from the default image picker. So it was just about doing the focus point stuff and integrating the image processing service. So that was very a quick win.
Yeah. Translatic was also then the final development of Translatic was maybe 2 weeks for the team, not much more. But to come to this point, we had different iterations. We started, as I mentioned before, we started with how should we structure the content for different languages. What is if you have 15 language versions of an article, for example? How should this be displayed in Studio? And then at the end, we decided the editor has to decide how he will structure his or her content. Yeah, this was the main part for Translatic, and governance. The core development was quite easy, but having all the APIs in the browser available, don't need public access points and the spelling performance. This took some time, but yeah, I guess we did it in 2 months also. Yeah, 2 months for governance. Yeah.
Yeah, I think there's 2 points I hear in that. First of all, that's a really quick turnaround for such powerful plugins, and so really great. Obviously, there's a lot of like you said, there's a lot of experience that you're bringing to the table, and you know how these use cases work, and there's a lot. You're bringing so much to the table when you start development that you can kind of get right into the feature set. And the other thing, I'll talk about this a little bit later today, but you can combine and sort of recombine some of our Studio capabilities into your plugins. So you're leveraging the SDK essentially to extend. Along the lines of the governance plugin, somebody asked, what's the reporting for that look like?
Currently, we haven't reporting in place.
Are there metrics of any kind on that, or?
I think you see the metrics in the preview.
Yeah.
And
okay. And then just looking
kind of an archive, or
No. It's just on demand share. We have little for this project. The customer has a Little Forest license in place, and Little Forest checks the live site regularly on a daily basis. So there they have all the history, how it was changed, and so on. All the reporting for the site is done in the Little Forest system, and this is only for the editors to see. I put some content into it, image. Does it fulfill the content requirements we have in place?
And as it
The
runs in the
proper-
browser, you don't have a special reporting
Yeah,
afterwards.
yeah.
It's
Yeah.